The alien military academy was the pride of the galaxy. Its towers of crystal and steel rose high above the training grounds, casting long shadows over the assembly fields below. From across 100 star systems, cadets had come here to prove themselves. Some bore the scales of reptilian war clans, others carried the gleaming crests of insectoid hives, and still more wore the ceremonial armor of noble warrior dynasties. Each believed their people's weapons were the greatest in the galaxy. On this day, the central parade ground buzzed with excitement. A new group of exchange students had arrived, humans fresh from Earth. Their entrance was quiet, almost unimpressive. They wore plain gray uniforms, with patches of their homeworld's flag stitched at the shoulder. They carried no glowing rifles, no humming plasma blades, no swarms of drones hovering at their sides. Instead, their equipment looked ancient metal helmets, heavy boots, belts of dull brass shells, and at the center of their gear, the strangest sight of all, a massive, lumbering artillery cannon dragged forward on wheels. Its long steel barrel was scarred with soot and scratches, its frame heavy and crude compared to the sleek alien weapons surrounding it. At first, silence hung in the air. Then the laughter began. Cadets from the Avketh clans hissed in mock amusement. Insectoid cadets clicked their mandibles in derision. The avian warriors of the Kiran spread their wings, laughing so hard they nearly stumbled. One of the reptilian cadets sneered. "Metal sticks that spit fire. This is what Earth brings, a toy from the Age of Iron." Another voice shouted from the crowd, dripping with sarcasm. "Careful, or they'll throw rocks next." The humans did not answer. They stood in neat formation, eyes forward, faces unreadable. Their silence only fueled the laughter. Rumors began to ripple through the crowd like sparks across dry grass. "Humans are weak," someone whispered. "Their weapons are outdated." Another added, "Their world is backward. They never conquered stars. They barely left their own." Cadets exchanged knowing looks, smirks spreading from face to face. They spoke louder now, not caring if the humans heard. "This will be easy," one boasted. "If war ever comes, Earth will fall in a single day." The instructors stood at the edge of the field, watching with narrowed eyes. Some smiled at the mockery. Others simply shook their heads at the primitive-looking weapons. Finally, one stepped forward. Commander Sher, a tall figure clad in black ceremonial armor. His crest of silver feathers marked him as a veteran of 3 campaigns. He studied the humans for a long moment, his eyes cold, then spoke so all could hear. "If Earth wishes to play soldier with toys, then let them. But this academy does not waste time on illusions. We will see today what these relics can do." The laughter died down to murmurs. Everyone leaned forward, curious. Commander Sher raised his arm and pointed toward the proving grounds. Beyond the parade square, a massive shield wall shimmered faintly, its surface glowing blue with energy. It was built to withstand heavy plasma bombardments, the kind of firepower used to level cities. No cadet weapon had ever cracked it. "You will face this," Sher declared. His voice echoed across the training grounds. "Your artillery against the Academy's shield barrier. We will test your Earth weapons. And we will show the galaxy that outdated tools cannot stand against modern war." A wave of amusement and anticipation swept through the alien cadets. This was better than they had hoped. Not only would the humans fail, they would fail in front of the entire Academy. Eyes turned to the Earth cadets. Still, they did not react. They did not look nervous, nor did they rise to the taunts thrown their way. Their faces remained calm, almost unreadably so, as though this had been expected. To the alien cadets, their silence was proof of fear. They whispered to one another, "They're terrified. They know they can't win. Look at them, they can't even defend their honor." But to anyone watching closely, the humans' silence carried a different weight. Their stillness was not weakness, it was patience. They moved with quiet purpose as they began preparing their cannon, methodically checking its wheels, adjusting its barrel, and sliding the massive shells into place. The sound of their work echoed across the ground, the clank of steel, the scrape of shells sliding into the breach, the click of gears being set. There was no glow of power cells, no hum of energy, just the raw, heavy sound of machinery. For the alien cadets, it was almost comical. Compared to the sleek hiss of plasma rifles, the humans' weapons sounded crude and primitive. Yet there was something unsettling in that sound, something that made a few listeners shift uncomfortably without knowing why. The crowd pressed closer to the edge of the field. The anticipation grew thick, almost electric. Every cadet wanted to see it. The moment when Earth's weapons failed, when the humans were shamed, when the Academy's shield swallowed their firepower without a scratch. Commander Scher's voice cut through the whispers. Prepare the demonstration. Alien cadets witness the truth of modern power. Human cadets. He paused, his lips curling into a faint sneer. Prepare for humiliation. A low chuckle rippled through the ranks of alien students. The stage was set. The humans had no escape now. Above the field, the Academy's banners fluttered in the wind. The shield wall shimmered brighter, waiting for the strike. The artillery cannon loomed like a silent beast, its barrel raised toward the impossible target. The countdown had not even begun, and already the audience leaned forward, eager. Every eye was fixed on the humans, waiting for them to fail, waiting for the humiliation that everyone believed was certain. Yet the humans remained calm. Not a word escaped their lips. Not a flicker of doubt showed in their eyes. They simply stood by their cannon, silent and steady, as if they knew something the rest of the galaxy did not. The suspense tightened like a coiled spring. In that quiet, in that fragile pause before the test began, one truth lingered, unseen, unspoken, but heavy in the air. The laughter would not last forever. The proving ground stretched wide and flat, carved into the stone cliffs that rose beyond the Academy walls. For centuries, it had been the arena where cadets tested their skill, where weapons were measured and where reputations were broken. The ground was scorched black from countless drills, the air thick with the faint hum of energy still clinging to the shield wall. Now, hundreds of alien cadets gathered at the terraces above the range, looking down at the humans below. Whispers darted from group to group, fueled by smugness and curiosity. They're really going to try. With that, think? It looks like it should be in a museum. The humans worked silently, ignoring the jeers. Their uniforms were plain compared to the gleaming battle armor of the other cadets. Their cannon was nothing more than steel bolts and heavy wheels, dragged into place with brute force. No sleek exoskeleton supported its weight. No repulsor field carried it forward. Just muscle, sweat, and determination. For the alien audience, it was like watching primitives attempt to fight titans. They were certain of the outcome. Commander Scher stood on a raised platform overlooking the range. His feathers glinted under the pale Academy sun. He raised one hand, calling for silence. "Cadets," his voice boomed, carried by hidden amplifiers. "Today you witness a lesson. Strength is not claimed, it is proven. These human cadets have brought their artillery for testing. Against them, the Academy's shield wall." He gestured, and the shimmering blue barrier pulsed to life. It stretched across the range, 50 meters tall, glowing with raw energy. The shield generators embedded in the ground thrummed like the heart of a giant beast. The wall was designed to withstand a fleet bombardment, the kind that rained plasma down from orbit. No weapon had ever pierced it. Not a single cadet had ever dented its glow. Scher turned, his gaze locking on the human formation. "When the signal is given, you may fire. Show us what your world believes is war." The alien cadets chuckled and murmured among themselves. The insectoid Encra clicked their mandibles in delight. The Kiran avians whispered wagers, some betting on how quickly the human's cannon would fail, whether the shot would fizzle, bounce, or simply break apart. None believed it would leave even a mark. Meanwhile, the human team worked methodically. They had no flashy displays, no ceremonial chants. Instead, they loaded a single massive shell into the breach. The sound of it sliding into place was heavy, metallic, final. The alien cadets tilted their heads, confused. The process seemed slow, clumsy. Where was the elegance of war? Where was the glow of technology? "Look at them," an Avketh cadet hissed with amusement. "They need 5 minutes just to fire one shot. By then a drone swarm could cut them to pieces." Another scoffed. "That cannon cannot even track moving targets. What is it good for?" The questions carried across the terraces, growing louder, bolder. The humans remained silent, ignoring the insults. Their faces were calm, their movements steady. At last the artillery cannon was ready. Its barrel rose, angling upward with a mechanical groan. The human officer in charge, a broad-shouldered man with sharp eyes, gave a single nod. The crew stepped back, hands at their sides, as though this ritual had been performed 1,000 times before. From the stands, laughter erupted again. "That's it? That's all they've got." Commander Scher lifted his hand. The crowd fell quiet, waiting for the moment of triumph. His voice echoed across the range. Begin. A hush settled over the field. The shield wall shimmered, waiting. The sound of the second shot still echoed across the cliffs when the humans prepared the third. The cannon's barrel smoked, its steel frame glowing faintly with heat. Yet the crew moved with mechanical calm, their hands practiced, their faces steady. To them, this was not spectacle. This was routine. On the terraces, the alien cadets were no longer laughing. They leaned forward against the railing, eyes wide, wings and scales shifting uneasily. The shield wall still held, but its surface shivered as though straining under invisible weight. Bright cracks of energy spiderwebbed from the last impact point. It was impossible. No plasma weapon had ever made the wall buckle. No laser beam had ever carved that deep. Yet this cannon, this relic of steel and fire, had done so twice in a row. Commander Scher's face remained stoic, but his eyes flickered. He raised one clawed hand. Continue, the humans obeyed. Another shell slid into the breach with a hollow metallic clang. The sound echoed across the parade ground, heavy and deliberate. A ripple of whispers swept through the crowd. Is the shield malfunctioning? It can't be. The diagnostics, look, it's holding, but barely. Alien technicians confirmed what everyone feared. The shield was at full power. Its generators hummed steadily beneath the ground, their readings flawless. No fault existed, no weakness in the system. The fault was not in the shield. It was in the assumption that the shield could never be broken. The human officer stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the glowing barrier. He raised his hand, gave a sharp nod. The cannon fired. Boom! The blast shook the academy itself. Dust rained from the terraces. The projectile screamed across the range, trailing smoke. The cadets flinched as it slammed into the heart of the weakened wall. This time, the shield did not merely bend, it shattered. The explosion flared brighter than the sun, arcs of energy ripping outward in jagged bolts. The force ripped across the proving grounds, sending shockwaves that knocked cadets off their feet. The once proud shield wall dissolved into fragments of light that scattered into the sky like dying stars. For a long, breathless moment, silence ruled the academy. The only sound was the crackle of fading energy, the groan of smoking generators. Every cadet stared, unable to speak. The unbreakable wall, their pride, their training tool, their symbol of invincibility, lay in ruins. And the ones who destroyed it were not veterans of galactic campaigns. Not warlords, not champions, just humans. Young cadets from a world mocked as primitive. A murmur broke the silence, one voice trembling in disbelief. The shield. It's gone. The whisper spread, growing into a chorus of shock. It's gone. It broke. Impossible. The humans did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They stood by their cannon, their faces calm and unreadable, as if nothing remarkable had happened. Their silence was heavier than the blast itself. To the alien cadets, it was unnerving. These humans had shattered the Academy's strongest defense, and yet they acted as though it was expected, as though it was nothing more than another drill. Commander Scher finally spoke, his voice colder now, his authority tested. The demonstration is complete, but even he could not disguise the tension in his tone. His feathers were ruffled, his stance rigid. The commander of countless battles had just witnessed something that unsettled even him. One of the avian Kiran cadets whispered to his friend, his wings trembling. If that cannon can destroy an academy wall, what could it do to a warship's hull? An Encra insectoid chittered nervously. Shields are our pride. If humans can break them, what chance do we have? Doubt, once unthinkable, spread like a disease through the terraces. And still the humans prepared another round. The crowd gasped as the crew reloaded with calm precision. They were not done. To the humans, firing 3 shots was routine. To the aliens, it was a nightmare. The officer gave the signal. Boom! The 4th shot thundered across the range, not aimed at the wall, for there was no wall left to hit, but at the barren cliffs beyond. The shell struck with such force that the rock face exploded outward, a rain of shattered stone tumbling across the proving grounds. Dust clouds billowed high, rolling like a storm over the field. When the dust cleared, a crater yawned in the cliffside. The aliens stared at it in horror. That wasn't just destruction. That was power. Raw, unrelenting, merciless power. And still the humans stood silent. Commander Sher's voice broke through the stunned quiet. Enough! His tone was sharp now, almost desperate. He raised a claw for emphasis, as though to reassert control. The test is finished. Clear the range. The humans obeyed instantly. They began disassembling the cannon with the same quiet efficiency, ignoring the stares of hundreds of alien eyes. To them, this was not a triumph to boast about. It was simply demonstration, proof of what they already knew. But to the rest of the academy, it was revelation. The cadets who had mocked Earth's weapons now stood in uneasy silence. They remembered their laughter, their boasts, their confidence that humans would be humiliated. Now that laughter felt hollow. Their pride tasted bitter. The shield wall lay broken, the cliffs bore scars. And deep in the hearts of every alien cadet, a seed of fear began to grow. For if this was Earth's old weapon, its primitive artillery, what else did humanity possess? What lay hidden behind their silence, behind their calm stares? The galaxy had mocked Earth, but today the galaxy had seen something else. Something terrible, something powerful. The laughter was gone. In its place there was only the echo of thunder. The echoes of the cannon's thunder still rolled through the mountains long after the last shot. Dust hung in the air, glowing in the pale sunlight. The proving grounds, once a place of pride and discipline, now looked like a battlefield, smoking, scarred, and broken. The shield wall, the Academy's greatest symbol of defense, was gone. Its generators sputtered with dying sparks. The ground where the shells had landed still smoldered, hot enough to warp metal. A crater scarred the cliffside, its jagged edges sharp against the sky. On the terraces, the cadets stared in stunned silence. No one dared speak at first. Their laughter, so loud and mocking only moments ago, had been blasted away just like the wall. The air itself seemed heavy, pressing down on them with the weight of realization. It was the insectoid Encra who broke the silence first. His mandibles clicked nervously. That wall. It was rated against fleet fire. Plasma, lasers, disruptors. Nothing should break it. A reptilian cadet shook his scaled head slowly, his golden eyes fixed on the humans below. It didn't just break. It shattered like glass. The Kiran avians shifted their wings uneasily. They prided themselves on grace and speed, on weapons of precision. Yet here was something far cruder, far simpler, and far more devastating. The murmurs grew louder. The cadets whispered among themselves, but their voices carried fear instead of arrogance. If that's their old technology. Hey, what do they use now? What could a full battery of those cannons do? The thought spread like fire through dry grass. Earth had brought only one cannon, a single crew, and already they had accomplished what no alien cadet in generations had managed. If Earth deployed an army of such weapons, what would happen to cities? To fleets, to planets? Commander Sher's feathers bristled. He could feel the fear rising in his cadets, infecting them. His voice snapped out, sharp and commanding. Silence! The terraces fell quiet instantly, though unease still rippled through the crowd. Sher fixed his cold eyes on the human formation. They stood by their cannon, calm and silent, not basking in glory, not demanding praise. That silence was more frightening than celebration could ever be. The commander turned back to the cadets. Do not let this spectacle deceive you. This was one weapon. One outdated relic. Yes, it struck hard. But do not mistake brute force for superiority. His words carried authority but not conviction. The cadets could hear the edge in his voice, the doubt beneath the command. Sher himself had seen the readings. The shield had not failed. It had been broken. The humans began disassembling their weapon, moving with the same quiet precision as before. Every metallic clank echoed across the grounds, making the cadets flinch as though each sound carried the memory of that devastating blast. Some of the younger cadets whispered nervously to one another. If they fired at us, would our armor hold? Would anything hold? The realization was chilling. Shields, armor, energy fields, all the pride of galactic warfare, meant little against the raw, unrelenting force of human artillery. One Encra cadet muttered, his mandibles trembling. You cannot jam that. You cannot drain it. You cannot trick it with decoys. It just fires. And it hits, the thought lingered. Energy weapons could be countered, intercepted, blocked. But a solid shell launched with sheer explosive force. There was no elegant defense against it, only destruction. The cadets remembered the humans' silence when mocked. They remembered their calm stares, their patience, their refusal to rise to insults. Now they understood why. The humans had known what would happen. They had walked into the academy with their so-called primitive weapon, fully aware of what it could do, and they had waited. Waited for the laughter. Waited for the mockery. Waited for the chance to prove without a word what humanity's weapons could accomplish. The shockwave was no longer just physical, it was psychological. Across the terraces, cadets who once looked down on Earth now looked at the humans with a mixture of awe and dread. The proving grounds were quiet now. The dust had settled, though the air still smelled of smoke and scorched stone. The shield wall lay in ruins, nothing more than smoking debris and flickering sparks. The academy's pride was gone. The alien cadets stood on the terraces in uneasy silence. The humans, finished with their task, stood at ease beside their cannon. For the first time since their arrival, every eye was fixed on them, not with mockery but with something heavier: suspicion, awe, fear. Commander Scher's voice finally cut through the silence. "Earth cadets." His tone was steady, but his feathers betrayed him, ruffling with unease. "You have made your point. Your weapon has power, but power without control is nothing." The words rang hollow, and the cadets knew it. Still, they clung to them like a lifeline, desperate to believe their commander's authority remained unshaken. And then, for the first time, one of the humans stepped forward. He was broad-shouldered, his uniform plain, his rank insignia simple. His voice was calm, deep, measured, not boastful, not mocking, but steady like iron. "You laugh at what you do not understand," he began. His words carried easily across the terraces, amplified by the Academy's comms system. "You see steel, smoke, and fire, and you call it primitive. You call it weak. But weakness does not shatter your strongest shield." The cadets shifted uncomfortably. His voice was not loud, but it was cutting. It struck harder than the cannon itself because it carried truth. The officer continued, his tone calm but firm. "Our weapons do not glow. They do not hum. They do not rely on endless power cells or fragile energy conduits. They are simple, reliable, brutal. They work anywhere, on the ground, in the rain, in the vacuum of space. They work when your power grids fail, when your drones are hacked, when your ships are blind. Our weapons need no elegance. They need only to do one thing: end the fight." A murmur spread across the terraces. The cadets felt the words sink in like stones dropped in deep water. One alien cadet, braver than the rest, shouted from the stands, trying to break the spell. "But your weapons are old. You cannot match plasma or antimatter with shells and powder." The human officer turned his gaze upward, meeting the cadet's eyes without flinching. "Old," he let the word hang in the air. "Do you know why our weapons look old to you? Because we perfected them centuries ago. We did not stop at plasma or lasers. We learned that raw force delivered with precision can crush anything built to resist it. Shields, armor, fortresses, fleets, it makes no difference. In war, what matters is not how advanced your weapon looks. What matters is whether your enemy is still standing when the smoke clears." The cadets had no answer. His words struck deep, cutting through their pride. Another human stepped forward, one of the artillery crew. He was younger, his voice sharp but steady. "You hide behind technology you don't fully understand. You think shields make you invincible. You think lasers make you superior. But war is not about superiority. It is about survival. And humans have been surviving wars longer than you can imagine." The crowd stirred uneasily. Their claws, wings, and mandibles twitched, but no one interrupted. The human officer spoke again, his tone slower now, as if to drive each word into memory. "We learned long ago that no defense is perfect. No shield holds forever, so we built weapons to break them. Not once, not twice, but every time. We built weapons to last when supply lines fail. To fight in mud, in ash, in cities reduced to rubble. When the galaxy laughs at our tools, we sharpen them. When our enemies think we are weak, we show them why they are wrong." His eyes swept across the terraces. Hundreds of cadets shifted under his gaze, some lowering their eyes, others gripping their weapons as though for comfort. "Understand this," he said, his voice dropping lower, colder. "We did not bring our best. What you saw today was the past, the minimum, a weapon our ancestors used long before we reached the stars. And still it broke what you thought unbreakable." The words fell like a hammer. Cadets who had mocked the humans now found their throats dry. They could not imagine what Earth kept hidden, what weapons they had chosen not to reveal. The officer finished with a simple truth, spoken without arrogance. We do not need elegance. We do not need beauty. We only need one thing, the will to fight until our enemies fall. That is humanity's weapon. That is why we endure. Silence followed. Not a single cadet dared laugh now. The humans' calm words weighed heavier than their cannon's thunder. Commander Scher said nothing. For the first time, his authority felt fragile. He had wanted to expose the humans' weakness. Instead, their strength now stood revealed in the clearest way possible. The alien cadets exchanged uneasy glances. Their pride, their certainty, their mockery, it all seemed small now, childish in the face of the humans' truth. The humans had not come to boast. They had not come to prove superiority. They had come to demonstrate reality. And reality was brutal. The Academy's cadets would never forget the cannon's roar. But even more, they would never forget the humans' words. Simple, calm, undeniable. Weapons could be mocked. Shields could be trusted. Pride could be inflated. But when the smoke cleared, only one thing mattered: who was still standing. And now the galaxy understood. Humans always stood. The terraces remained silent long after the human officer's words faded. The weight of what had been said and what had been shown hung heavy in the air. The shield wall was gone. The Academy's pride lay shattered. And the humans stood calm, collected, as though none of this had surprised them. For the alien cadets, the silence was unbearable. Their minds churned with questions they had never thought to ask. What else did Earth hide? If this was their past, what did their future look like? If their old weapons could do this, what would their newest ones unleash? A young Kiran cadet shifted uneasily, his feathers trembling as he whispered to his neighbor. This wasn't even their strongest? Then why bring it here? The other cadet, an Enkra with gleaming mandibles, clicked nervously. That's the point. They wanted us to laugh. They wanted us to see only weakness before they showed us truth. They wanted this, the realization stung. The humans had not stumbled into respect by accident. They had orchestrated it. They had stood silent, patient, enduring mockery, knowing the moment of revelation would be all the more devastating. Commander Scher stood rigid on his platform, but his eyes betrayed unease. He was no fool. He saw the change spreading through his cadets. Fear was a disease, and it was spreading fast. Control yourselves, he barked, his voice sharp, commanding. They broke a wall, yes, but war is not a wall. Do not let fear blind you to truth. Do not let silence turn you into cowards. But even as he spoke, his words rang thin. The cadets were no longer listening to him. They were watching the humans. The artillery crew stood still, their cannon disassembled beside them. Their calm was worse than arrogance. Arrogance could be dismissed as bluster. Calm could not. Calm meant certainty. Calm meant they knew they were strong enough that no boasting was needed. And that, more than the cannon itself, terrified the cadets. A reptilian Avketh cadet clenched his claws, his tail lashing nervously. We thought them weak. But they fight like predators who know their prey already lies broken, another cadet whispered, almost trembling. What if they were holding back? What if this was only a fraction of their strength? The question silenced the group. None dared answer. The truth was forming in every mind, whether they admitted it or not. Humans had not brought their strongest weapons. They had brought a relic, something they considered old, obsolete, almost forgotten. And yet it had broken the Academy's best defense in minutes. The thought was chilling. If this was what Earth considered outdated, then their true arsenal was unimaginable. One by one, the cadets began to realize the scale of their mistake. For years they had mocked humanity. For years they had seen Earth as backward, a weakling world clinging to primitive ways. But weakness did not stand against the stars. Weakness did not survive centuries of endless wars. Weakness did not look calm while breaking what others thought unbreakable. No, humanity was not weak. Humanity was dangerous. The Kiran cadet who had whispered earlier now spoke louder, his voice shaking. We have been blind. We looked at their weapons and saw toys. But toys do not shatter shields. They have been fighting wars longer than any of us. Wars so brutal we cannot imagine them. And they learned lessons we never did. The words struck home. The cadets thought of their own histories. Their people had fought wars, yes, but always with technology as a crutch, with shields to protect them, with drones to fight for them. Humanity had none of those luxuries in their past. They had clawed survival out of mud and blood, inventing tools that worked not because they were elegant, but because they killed, and suddenly, the humans' silence made sense. They had not needed to defend themselves with words. They had not needed to boast. Their history was their defense. Their weapons were their words, and those words had spoken louder than any argument. The fear deepened. A thought unspoken but shared by many began to take root. If humanity ever decided to fight, not as cadets, not as allies, but as conquerors, who could stop them? Even Commander Sher seemed shaken now. He masked it with authority, but he too had seen the truth. He had seen the shield wall crumble. The sun was dipping low over the academy when the demonstration ended. The proving grounds were quiet, scarred with smoke and broken stone. The great shield wall, once a symbol of unshakable defense, lay in ruins. The cadets stood in uneasy silence. Their wings drooped, their claws twitched, their mandibles clicked nervously. They had come expecting laughter, expecting humiliation. Instead, they had seen their pride shatter under the thunder of human artillery. The humans stood in formation beside their cannon. They did not smile. They did not boast. Their faces were calm, their eyes steady, as though they had only done what was expected of them. That silence was more terrifying than any words could have been. Finally, the human officer stepped forward. His boots echoed against the stone as he moved to the center of the range. He stopped, raised his head, and looked out across the terraces where hundreds of alien cadets stared down at him. When he spoke, his voice was calm, steady, unhurried. "We did not come here to conquer. We came to learn as you did, but you mocked us. You mocked our history, our tools, our survival. You laughed because our weapons do not glow with light or hum with power." His eyes swept the crowd. No one looked away, though many shifted uneasily under his gaze. "You have seen the truth now. Our weapons are not elegant. They are not beautiful. They are not advanced in the way you measure such things. But they work. They break shields. They end wars." The words hung in the air like a blade. The officer's tone hardened, his voice cutting sharper now. "Understand this. What you saw today was the past. One cannon, one relic. If that alone shattered your pride, imagine what waits beyond. Imagine what humanity has built for the wars we hope will never come." A murmur rippled through the terraces, fear spreading again like a tide. The officer continued, "We fight differently than you. We do not trust in shields to save us. We do not rely on fragile codes and systems. We trust only in the will to endure, and the weapons that will always work when nothing else does. You call that primitive. We call it survival. And survival is why humanity still stands." He paused, letting the silence weigh down the cadets. Then his voice dropped lower, colder. "If war ever comes, remember this day. Remember the wall that fell. Remember the thunder that silenced your laughter. And remember the truth. Humans do not fight to prove themselves. Humans fight to win." His words struck harder than the artillery itself. The cadets shifted uneasily, their earlier arrogance gone, replaced by the heavy understanding that they had underestimated humanity. Badly. The officer gave a final glance across the terraces, his eyes hard, his voice firm. "We came here in peace. Do not mistake our silence for weakness again." And with that he turned, giving the order for his crew to move out. The humans began packing away their cannon with the same calm precision as before, their boots crunching over the cracked stone. The alien cadets did not laugh. They did not jeer. They only watched, silent and wary, as the humans marched away. The proving grounds were left scarred, the shield wall destroyed, but the greatest damage was not physical. It was in the minds of the cadets. They had come believing humanity weak. They left knowing humanity was dangerous, and as the humans disappeared beyond the gates of the proving grounds, a single thought echoed through every alien mind. The galaxy had mocked Earth, but today, the galaxy had been warned. Night fell over the alien academy. The stars shone sharp and cold above the training grounds, where silence now reigned. The broken shield wall remained unrepaired, a scar of stone and fire that no one dared cover up. It was a reminder, a wound, and a warning all at once. In the mess halls, in the barracks, in the shadowed corners where cadets whispered, one topic consumed them all, Earth. They didn't even bring their best. That was only a relic, they said. What do their real weapons look like? If one blast can tear apart shields, what will their fleets do in war? The questions circled like vultures, never answered, always returning. Some cadets feared. Others doubted. A few felt something darker. A Navketh cadet clenched his claws around his drink, eyes burning with anger. This is dangerous. Humanity cannot be allowed to grow unchecked. If they hide such power now, imagine what they'll unleash in a century. Do you think they will remain content with peace forever? A reptilian voice answered, low and cold. Perhaps the High Command must know. Perhaps Earth must be contained. The words spread like poison. Fear turned into suspicion. Suspicion into whispers of strategy. And whispers in time had a way of becoming plans. Meanwhile, in their quarters, the human cadets sat together in quiet. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. One of them, the artillery officer who had spoken, polished the steel casing of a shell with slow, deliberate care. His eyes were far away, thoughtful, heavy. A younger cadet finally broke the silence. They're afraid of us now. The officer nodded slowly. Good, let them be. He set the shell back in its case and locked it. Then his gaze hardened. But fear cuts two ways. It makes enemies cautious. Or it makes them desperate. And desperate enemies are dangerous. The room grew quiet again. They all knew the truth. The demonstration had been a warning. But warnings were rarely left unanswered. Outside, the alien academy still buzzed with whispers. And beyond the academy, across the stars, the tale of Earth's canon would spread. It would grow, shift and twist in the retelling. Some would see it as proof of Earth's strength. Others would see it as a threat to be crushed before it rose too high. The humans knew this. They had always known. That was why their weapons were not just tools. They were reminders, symbols, warnings etched in fire and steel. And though the galaxy now feared them, humanity feared something far greater. What would happen the day the galaxy decided to test them again? The night deepened. The whispers spread, and in the silence one truth became clear. The first shot had been fired, not in battle but in fear.